Hello, my name is Anika Stephen Wilbur, and I'm an academic coach with the Learning Center at Portland State University. In my presentation, Hello Motivation, Where Are You? I'll be talking about motivation, what it is, maybe where it went, how to bring it back, and all of this in support of your academic success. But before we get into that, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the Learning Center. The Learning Center is located on the campus of Portland State University. We're on the second floor of the Millar Library, and we offer a range of services for students, all at no additional cost. We work with everyone from undergraduate to graduate students, post-bac students. We work with everyone. And one of the things that we offer is tutoring in sciences, maths, and world languages. We offer that both online and on campus. We also have a college success course, which is great for supporting the academic success of students, both in college and beyond. And that's done in a classroom format, working with a lot of self-reflective techniques. And then we have academic coaching, of which I'm an academic coach. I work with students one-on-one. We work through any obstacles, any barriers that they have, and a lot of the concerns that come up are around motivation, time management, test-taking strategies, reading strategies, and more. And then we have these roads to success presentations, including this one, where we pick some of the most common topics that we touch on in our coaching sessions. And we've created some short presentations so that we can spread these tools to a wider audience. So there you go. That's the Learning Center. Back to the topic at hand, motivation. So through this presentation, I hope that you have a better understanding of what motivation is and why it's important in the academic environment. We'll also explore why we might lose motivation, and at the end of it all, we'll learn how to set goals to bring motivation back. So let's start with motivation and what it is. To put it basically, it's a process that moves a person towards a goal. It's the drive that gets us from here to the finish line. But let's break it down even further. So when you think about the goals that you want to accomplish, are you motivated to reach them? You can think of it as an equation where the value times the expectation equals the amount of motivation that you have to accomplish your goal. So value. What does accomplishing this goal mean to you? How important is it? If you were to put a number on it on a scale of 1 to 10, is it a 2? Is it a 10? How much value do you place on your goal? Same thing with expectation. Do you think you can realistically accomplish this goal? Where does it fall on that scale of 1 to 10? Is your expectation low or is it high? The combination of value and expectation essentially indicate how motivated you are to get things done. So in a little bit, I'll give you time to reflect on some of the things that you'd like to do in your life and the value and the expectation that you bring to those things, essentially how motivated you are to accomplish those goals. And we'll also talk a little bit about one of the best tools that will help you support your motivation to get things done. So all this talk about motivation and what it is, but why is it important? Well, motivation increases our ability to persist through obstacles. So things will come up, expected, unexpected. How do we get through them? Motivation helps us push through. It increases the intensity with which we bring to accomplishing our goals. Same thing with effort. And that sustainability, being able to carry that effort with that intensity over a long period of time, motivation is what allows us to do that. So when you think about your academic goals, how long is it from here to the end of your degree? Is it 1 year? Is it 3 years? Motivation is what's going to help you get from here to graduation day. All the motivation leads us to success, and ultimately that is where we want to be. But sometimes we lose motivation. It happens to all of us. Some common reasons are maybe we're feeling overwhelmed or feeling pressure. Maybe you're not getting the grades that you expected you would. It could be the time of year. Often we see motivation flagging around midterms, around finals. Maybe the motivation isn't coming from inside of you. Maybe it's coming from outside sources. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But think about what some other reasons are. And most importantly, what motivates you? Hold on to this question because we'll come back to it. So thinking about internal and external motivation, another way to say that is intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So this describes where the motivating factors are. Are they inside of you or are they outside of you? Are they internal or intrinsic or external and extrinsic? So some examples of intrinsic motivators, a sense of achievement, maybe curiosity, interest, pride. Think about that subject that maybe you're really passionate about. Maybe it feels like doing work in that class is like nothing. You've got the motivation, that interest is there, it's coming from within you. You could take 10 classes on that subject and be excited about all of them. On the other hand, external motivators, extrinsic motivation, things like money, grades, praise, career, exams, sometimes when those things fall away, it's easier to lose that motivation because they're coming from outside of you. So when we think about success, you're more likely to be successful in achieving what you set out to do and maintaining your drive to push through obstacles over long periods of time if the motivation is coming from within. So if these two heads represent two people in exactly the same situation, but one is depending only on external motivators to keep them going and the other isn't, who do you think will keep going when the money, the grades, the praise, the good career, and the solid exam scores go away? It'll be the person on the left, the person with the strong internal motivators. And when you think of someone who's got strong internal motivation, we would describe them as self-determined. They're persisting when all those external motivators have gone away. So when we talk about being motivated, for the motivation to really stick, we want that source of motivation to be from within us. This image here represents a scale from not self-determined at all on the left to self-determined all the way on the right. So if someone's motivation levels were towards the end, the left side of that scale, they wouldn't feel like there's a point in trying to achieve a goal. They wouldn't expect that they would succeed. And then slowly, as they move towards a more self-determined state, you'll see that external motivating factors come into play. But again, motivation, if those factors are gone, the motivation might fall away. Slowly, 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 as you increase towards the self-determined side, when you get to be self-determined, you're doing it because you really want to do it. And ideally, that's where we want to end up when we're creating our goals and when we're deciding how we're going to accomplish them. So this is a little talk, a few minutes long, from TED Talk in Manchester. And the Carrie Green, she's a cell phone unlocking entrepreneur, and she's going to share some of her experience about when she was having a tough time, when her motivation had gone, and some of the realizations that she came to.
I was running this business predominantly from my home office, where I lived in an apartment. My second bedroom was turned into an office. And I felt completely lonely, totally isolated and lost. Something that I think so many people experience, but not very many of us talk about. And I crumbled. I started to question everything, and I started to think questions like, what am I doing? What is the point of all of this? And the more I thought about those questions, the more confused I felt. And then the more confused I felt, the more these negative thoughts would cloud my mind, the more I began to doubt everything and worry about everything and just question everything. And as the months rolled by, I became more and more negative, more and more self-defeatist. And literally this positive, optimistic and go-get-it person that I once was had just disappeared. I'd become totally negative and self-sabotaging. I'd come up with ideas, I'd shoot them down, I'd talk myself out of it. Then it got to 2010, and I felt like I was in complete despair. And so I packed my bags and I went traveling to Australia in the hope of having an epiphany. Spent 3 months traveling around Australia, no epiphany. And I was just like, what am I supposed to do? So then I came back to the UK and felt even more miserable than before because all of my problems were still waiting for me and the weather was rubbish. So then I was just like, what am I going to do? So for the next few months, I felt myself being suffocated by my problems, where you feel like you just can't get rid of these doubts and these worries. And it was all I used to focus on. I would come up with ideas, I would find opportunities, and I just talked myself out of it, thinking that I couldn't do it. And then finally, in 2011, I figured out where I was going wrong. And I believe I was going wrong for two massive reasons. The first reason was that, yes, I wanted to be successful, and quite frankly, doesn't every single person in this room want to be successful? But mobile phone unlocking was not my dream. And at the time, I was reading this book by Michael Gerber called The E-Myth. And in The E-Myth, there's this chapter on primary aims. And Michael Gerber says, imagine walking into a room, and sat in the room are your friends and family. And as you walk down the center of the room, you see a box. And as you get to the front of the room, you realize that you're in the box and it's your funeral. And he says, what kind of things do you want people to be saying about the kind of life that you lived, about the kind of person that you were and the kind of things that you achieved? And I realized I had no idea. So there was no wonder that I felt so off track. I had never, ever been on track. And the second reason why I think I went wrong is because of what was going on up here, what was going on in my head, all these doubts, all these worries, all this self-limiting belief. And I came across a quote by Anthony Robbins that said, your destiny is determined by the choices you make. Choose now, choose well. And I realized that I was responsible for this misery. I was responsible for the fact that I was stuck in a rut. I remember looking at my life thinking, I am waking up every single day and focusing on my problems. I am waking up every day and giving so much focus and attention to all of these awful thoughts, these doubts and these worries. I'm coming up with ideas and I'm shooting them down. I'm talking myself out of doing anything whatsoever. And I realized that if I wanted to live an incredible life and achieve amazing things, and I really did, that I had to get my mind to be on the same wavelength as me.
So just reflecting on some of the things that she said, obviously mindset is so important because if our mind's not in the right place, how are we going to be successful? And it comes back to the idea of values and expectations. When you're thinking about being motivated, if those things are not there within yourself, if you don't have that high value, you don't have that high expectation that you can achieve your goal, it's just a non-starter. You're not going to get there. So think about what else might have resonated with her talk for you, as we continue through our next slides. So you've lost your motivation for school. Now what? Well, motivation changes over time, but we can always work to bring it back. And how do we do that? We set goals. So goals can help bring back the drive and the self-belief and the motivation to know that you can achieve things. They provide focus and direction on what you're doing, and they help you move forward. So here's some goals that I found on the internet, some New Year's resolutions: get fit, lose weight, save more money. Do you think that these are the types of goals that we set in coaching? No, they are not. We set SMART goals. So SMART goals are going to be specific. You want to know exactly what you're aiming for. They're going to be measurable. This can tell you if you've reached your goal or not. They should be attainable. Are your goals realistic? You want to be able to reach them. This is back to the idea of expectation. You want your goals to be relevant. They should mean something to you. Again, that ties back to the idea of value. And of course, they should be time-based. Put a timeline on your goals. Know when you want to have achieved this success. Is it tomorrow? Is it next week, next year, 5 years? You get to decide, but just make sure that that timeline is attainable. So let's revisit these New Year's resolutions. SMART goals? I don't think so. They aren't specific. They aren't measurable. They might be attainable, but do you know if you've gotten there? Sure, they may have some relevance. Obviously, this person wrote them down, but do we know how much value that they have? And are they timely? There is no idea of how soon they want to achieve these goals. So these are not SMART goals. So when we're putting together our SMART goals, we're actually working on two types of goals: outcome goals and process goals. So outcome goals represent the big picture. So in this example here, the outcome goal is to maintain a 3.5 GPA during winter term. Process goals are the smaller steps, or the mini goals, that we complete along the way towards reaching our big picture outcome goal. So thinking about GPA, some process goals might be set up my study schedule by day 1 of winter term, or maybe input all assignments and exams, the due dates by the end of week 1, maybe meet with a tutor for that class at least once a week, and so on. The bottom line is the small goals support the big goals, and whatever you do, make those goals smart. Here's an actual example, one of my coaching students. These are SMART goals, and when we work with our coaching students to create these goals, typically they're created to be completed by or before the end of a single term. So this student set out to apply for 10 scholarships during one term. That was their big outcome goal. They identified 3 smaller process goals, or action steps as we call them in coaching, to help them reach their big outcome goal. These are the questions that I pose to my students as we start thinking about SMART goals. And so now I'd like for you to think about them. Think about what completing a course might mean for you, whether it's a course that you're in now, a course that you're about to take. Think about what completing the term means for you. Think about completing what your entire degree means for you, and hold these in your mind as you create your SMART goals. You can click the link below to be taken to one of our fillable SMART goals forms, or you can create a SMART goal on a separate sheet of paper using the same idea from the previous slides of big picture outcome goal, small action steps. Take a few minutes, pause this video, and come back when you're done. And now this step, this final step, and this is so important, celebrate your wins. Those action steps are goals themselves, and each one you complete is a win, so celebrate it. The momentum of crossing off those small goals as you complete them, it builds momentum, it increases motivation, and it keeps you achieving the SMART goals that you create for yourself. And finally, above all else, believe in yourself because you can do it. And if you're looking for more academic support and you're a Portland State University student, please come see us in the Learning Center. We can give you help with self-management or time management, study strategies, motivation, and more. There are 2 ways to make an appointment. You see our phone number here, or you can visit our coaching website, and we'd be excited to meet with you. Thank you for watching.